Now we're going to focus on getting the Lambda function to work properly. So what we want to do is we want to create a user without manually doing create item. So to do that, we need to use the AWS SDK. So what we can do now is, I think we might be able to import this directly. So let's go ahead and look at this. We'll say const AWS equals, we'll do a capital require, close this down, require AWS SDK, and let's try to save it and test it. And what we're going to basically test is, does Lambda on AWS, does this cloud function basically have the AWS SDK already? Because if it does, then that means we don't need to do a local package. So it looks like it might. So our function is going to do something more simple now. So I'm going to kill some of this. We'll keep the events. We're going to kill out this API key here. We'll make events console log the main action. I think we can actually make this a different color. Let's see. Cloud9 night. There we go. Okay, that looks a little bit easier to look at. So what we're going to do is we got the AWS SDK imported up here. Now we're going to basically run this. I'm actually going to switch this up because I don't like the way that this looks. So I'm going to say that this is const. We're going to call this main, or we'll call it API. And then we're going to say exports module.exports equals API. And then up here, we're going to have a handler function. So we'll say API.handler is equal to async events. And then inside this function, it's going to console.log the events. So when the event comes in, the first thing we're going to do is console log it. And then we're going to look at setting up the response. So I'll copy this code here. And then we're also going to check the path. So we're going to say if event.path is equal to, or say dot includes. And this is going to be users. What we're basically going to do is we're going to have full CRUD functionality. So like create, update, delete. And to do that, we have to check to see, is the method post, is it put, is it delete, or is it a get method? For now, we can just jump past it. We'll say if the event.path includes users, then we want to basically do something. So we're going to save user in DynamoDB. So now what we can do is we can say DynamoDB. Let's go ahead and grab this again. We'll create a separate function here called API.handle create user. There we go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pass it user object. And then inside of this function, we're going to call DynamoDB using AWS, which is the SDK. I'm going to change var to let. And then we're going to look for put item. Actually, DynamoDB has something that's a little bit better than this. Document client or something. There you go. So this makes it a little bit easier to work with. And we'll look for put item. Yeah, so it just has put. So this is all the code that we need. There we go. Lambda put item. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to have the table name here. So one thing that we can do is we can pass this as an environment variable. So we're going to say const table name equals process.env.table name. So then this table name variable is going to be passed in down here. And then for item, this is what our user's object is going to be. So we're going to call this just item. And then we're going to create a new, we'll say let params, and then let document.db client. And what I like to do is I actually don't like to use async on these functions. I like to do regular promises. So I'm going to say return new promise, resolve, reject. And then I'm going to grab all this code and copy it inside of there. There we go. Now that we have the table name and the item, we now have our params, which is what's required to make this call. And then I'm going to make this an arrow function. And so what we're going to say is console.log error, console.log data. Instead of doing console.log here, we're going to do a resolve. And instead of console.log error, we're going to do a reject. So now we're basically handling if there's an error here with the promise. And then underneath this, we're going to basically, or inside of the main function, our handler function, we're going to say handle create user. And we're going to say await. We'll say let response equal await handle create user. API.handle create user. And then for item, we're going to say event dot body. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to basically test this whole thing. So we've got a console.log here for the event. We've got event.body, we've got all this stuff. We should see some errors get thrown. In the meantime, I'm going to kill the rest of this, which we did in the last video. Actually, let me copy one of these, just so we have it. So inside of our handler, we're going to add this here. Say let response, and then we're going to say response.body. Is equal to await API handler, and then down here we'll say it's like double tabbed over, which is weird. Okay, and then down here we'll say response.status code equal to 200. I'll actually move this up here. And to make this even better, we're going to add a try catch block. So this try catch block is going to make it easier for us to do this asynchronous async await thing that we're doing here. Oh man. Writing code inside of this inline text editor is like not that great actually. Okay, so we have this try catch here, and then we have the catch that comes through, and if it's a catch, we want to say response.body is the error. And we want to say response.status code is 500. And we want to say return response. Okay, so now we're basically, I'll run through that in just a second. Let me delete the code down here.